The microphones are on. So
Okay.
these are on.
Hello.
Katie, can you
Al?
hear us? Al, can you hear us? Okay, great.
Okay.
All right.
Yay.
The folks, John Nuff and Kelly, you and Laura, you can hear us as well?
Drop something in the chat. Unmute
Yep,
yourself.
all good.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
We don't need closed captions. Thank you.
Testing, testing. I think, yep, they're gone.
Okay. I call to order the, no.
Recording in
start recording.
progress.
Let's start recording this time. Do I hear the recording has started?
The recording has started, Mr. Chair.
All right. All right, I call to order the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of Mansfield, Connecticut, August 4th, 2025 at 6:02 p.m. Members present are Aho Corsi, Anglin, Al Frattoni, Katie Frattoni, and, well, is Ken Ron?
Not yet.
In
you're not-
moments.
you're not-
I also
you're not here
see
yet.
I'm not here. Yeah.
maybe Josh Walters
Yes.
under the name Jackie.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's,
Kemper.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Um,
Josh.
There we go. Yes.
All
perfect.
right.
I believe that's his spouse's name.
Yes. Josh is here.
And you are seated. Josh, you are seated. Yes. Now you jumped around. Okay, I see you. Okay. We have a consent agenda consisting of the approval of minutes from July 21st.
I did watch the video, so
Okay.
I move to accept the consent agenda as written.
Moved by Corsi. Second by Anglin. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Passes unanimously. We have the appointment of an IWA member to fill a vacancy. He's seated right beside me, optimistically.
Yes.
Putting aside the presumption, Mr. Ron.
Yes, quite a presumption there.
Yeah. Yes, so
Right.
this is exactly the same as last meeting. So we just need to move to appoint Kenneth Ron to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Larry Ross. If someone's willing to put forward that motion, we'll be able to move forward.
Okay, someone like to put that forward?
I will do that.
Okay.
Of course, he moves to appoint Kenneth Ron to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Larry Ross.
Moved by Corsi,
England seconds.
second by Anglin. All in favor?
Don't we have discussion?
Oh, any discussion?
I think it's a little unfair that he gets immediately right next to Paul,
Ah.
as I've been on the edge of the table for 2 years.
But would you like this?
This is, I think this one gets cut out of the video a lot.
Oh,
and so
okay.
that's- that's-
Now you
It's
said
warm it up.
Yeah.
You've got the,
Nobody's here. Well, we can move those.
Oh, it's fine.
you're in the preferred seat. Okay, all in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Welcome,
Want to say welcome back, Ken.
welcome back, yeah,
Thank you, Katie.
okay. The other item of business we have is the application of the town of Mansfield to repair a disconnected road culvert. Tell us about it.
We'd like to welcome up Derek Delay, Assistant Public Works Director, who will walk through the presentation. This is the second culvert that we're working on Eagleville Brook. You may remember the first one from about 2.5 years ago, which was just upstream on Hunting Lodge Road. The culvert under Separatist is not as bad, so we don't have to do as intensive work, but Derek will walk us through exactly what has to be done on this project.
Now, did fixing the first one make the
Our
second?
sharing.
To share.
Let's see. Right, and that's hidden on this screen. So if you pass that over, I can. Okay. Almost. Yep.
Hard to. There we
Perfect.
go.
All right, my apologies. So this
to Michael's point, this is on the Eagleville Brook, just to the up portion or the northern portion of this of the screen. This is the culvert that was recently replaced on Hunting Lodge Road. So this particular culvert failed pretty catastrophically, pretty quickly, as a result of some corrosion in the existing soils, as well as, just the overall erosion that was occurring from the university. The culvert that is subject to this permit is a little further downstream, has the benefit of having a wetland system, pretty good sized wetland system in front of it. So a lot of that sediment that we were seeing at the more northern culvert isn't really present at this one. However, it still has experienced it periodically. And we had a analysis done by the same firm that did the design for Hunting Lodge Road to look at a series of different culverts in town to look at potential rehabilitation methods and or replacements. Being this just downstream, it still falls below the threshold required for diversion permits. So that's why we're pursuing with a relining project, as well as this culvert is a little undersized for the 50-year event, which we typically like to utilize for pipes that are in a sag, as we call them, which means they're in a low spot of the roadway. If we were to open up this culvert, we would probably introduce additional peak flows downstream. So we don't particularly want to do that at this instance without a really robust downstream analysis. So we wanted to really keep the existing size as it currently is. So during that analysis, they reviewed several different misalignments, and a lot of this is a result of really kind of rebuilding the roadway several times. We have 3 different material types. We have plastic, metal, and concrete, all of which, as you can see in this photo, is a misaligned joint. So you can see the mortar and the stonework right on the border of this. This was probably the old edge of road at one time. And they extended the culvert again, probably as a result of some what we call sloughing or probably erosion or scour at the downstream side. So likely what happened is there was a pipe there. It started to fail by losing the material below it at the downstream end. And that's part of the project is we want to actually help protect that scour hole, they're called, or spot for the water to lose its energy before it proceeds downstream. So we want to help protect that because you can already see in the new, with this extension, we're already having that problem that's starting to present itself. And we'll see that in the next couple of pictures. So what this relining will do is, one, it'll seal up all these different joints between the different pipe types and will prevent any kind of material or any kind of dirt above it from falling into the pipe and basically creating a sinkhole. In addition, we're also going to seal the bottom, which has eroded or corroded away pretty severely. Again, this is that sediment on the upstream side. This photo was taken about 4 years ago. So again, we're seeing that sedimentation. We do have some debris which has been removed already. And this is again on the upstream side. So this is looking inside the pipe. You can see the debris across the culvert here. And at the bottom, you can see we've got a pretty substantial amount of rust starting from what we call the spring line or the middle of the pipe down towards what we call the invert of the pipe, which would be the bottom of the pipe. And underneath this flowing water, there's very little material left of the original pipe. So about half of the water you're seeing here is actually going into underneath the pipe and flowing underneath it. So as a result of the relining, we're going to be able to preserve this pipe for a longer period until such time, funds become available, as well as we're going to help protect the existing road itself. And in the future, once we've kind of caught up on some of the infrastructure, we'll be able to actually come back here, do a full-blown analysis, and look at trying to restore, habitat like we did upstream. So we really see it as like a temporary measure for about 25 years. Temporary in the engineering world is 25 years. So that's really what we're trying to do here is really prolong the life of this pipe to get us through to a point where we can really do, the bank full width, really do the appropriate things and measures to really accommodate the stream. Again, on the downstream side, we see some of the failure of the head wall, and this is a result of inadequate protection on the downstream side of the culvert. So some of the larger flows that you'll see will actually resuspend or move some of the material that's at the downstream side. So a portion of this will actually be to restore what we call the scour hole and armor it such that during the full-blown events, we'll actually dissipate that energy. And also we'll come in, make the repairs to the existing head wall such that we won't have a continuing collapsing of this head wall, which is really pretty at the end of the day. So what is this going to look like in the short term? So this is the upstream side on our right-hand side of the screen, and to the left, we are on the downstream side. So because we only have one pipe at this location, we would like to bypass pump during low flow events up over the roadway and then discharge it into a stilling basin to dissipate that speed and that energy before it gets reintroduced into the stream. So it will go into a check dam system ahead of that, and then sheet flow back into the existing brook. Because this is an imperfect system, we also have a series of sandbag berms that will be placed sufficient distance away from the head walls and end wall to provide a working area. And what that does is very similar to what was done for the Hunting Lodge Road culvert. You actually see a copy of what those sandbag berms look like, and they basically, meld themselves to the stream bed. So we don't really have to do a lot of disturbance to that existing stream bed. And it'll basically be to the probably about 4.5 feet in height. So it'll be most of the pipe height associated with the culvert. Again, if there's an anticipated storm, this work won't be completed. The actual lining itself only takes a day, about 24 hours. But in terms of setting up, getting all the equipment in place, getting the sandbag berms in place, you're looking about just over seven days, about a little over a week. So it's a pretty short duration project. So because the sandbag berms are not perfectly to the stream bed and we may have some groundwater, they'll also be utilizing 2 dewatering pumps, one on the upstream side, one on the downstream side. And that's really intended to make sure we have a nice dry surface, that the existing pipe is dry when they begin it. So then they reintroduce that dewatered material back into the stream using a filter bag, and that will take out the sediment ahead of time. So that's really it for my presentation. Would welcome any questions that the agency may have.
Pretty straightforward. You probably do that work in the fall when there's less, when the rainfall is lower.
Yes, correct. We would do this in the, we would really just time it based on what the low flow is. Like looking in the next couple of weeks, it looks like a pretty low flow period. So that's
Right.
really what they're aiming for, is they look for a targeted window where they can do it in about 7 days, where they don't anticipate any large storms.
So we're receiving an application?
Yes.
But we can't
So-
act on it?
We can't, the way that the statute is written, a wetlands commission cannot receive and approve an application on the same day. We have to wait for another meeting. And the reason for that is related to whether or not we hold a public hearing. So for wetlands application, normally we hold a public hearing if we think there may be a significant impact to the wetland system. Our wetlands regulations have 8 items that outline things that we may consider a significant impact: permanent fill, loss of function, various things like that. There are also 2 other reasons you may hold a public hearing. Either if you think that it is in the substantial public interest to have a public hearing for public education or things like that, or if you receive a petition from, I believe it's 25 individuals to hold a public hearing. The reason why you don't act and receive an act on the same day is so that way there's a chance for folks to give their petition. So in terms of what we have to do today is we have to receive the application. If based on what you've heard, you think that this may be a significant impact on the functions and state of the wetland system, you could hold a public hearing for significant impact. If you think otherwise, that there is a public interest in having one for the sake of public education, you could have one. Otherwise, if you think that this is a small enough project that we don't need to have one, then you would simply receive the application, refer to the Conservation Commission for their comment, and that would be all the action you would have to take.
Okay. How do we feel about that?
I see Josh has his hand up, as does Katie.
Yes. Yeah, Katie, and, yes, and Josh. Yeah, Josh. Josh,
We don't
you're-
have any
you're-
sound from you, Josh, but it doesn't sound like you're muted, so I don't know.
How about that?
Yeah,
Better.
now we can hear you.
All right. It's the problem with using a computer that you don't regularly use. You never know which microphone is
All right.
gonna be working. Just a real quick question, and only to the extent you know it, Michael or anyone else on staff, just has there been a situation where we've done this with the culvert in the past where we've determined one way or the other? Not that it's necessarily dispositive in any way. I was just curious if you knew of any sort of.
At the culvert that was just upstream, the work was much more extensive. It was a longer period of work, much more extensive work on banks and stabilization. And so as a result of that, it was found to be a significant impact, or there was a potential for significant impact. So we held a public hearing. There was a field trip. But that was for a whole rip out and replace with a whole new system. As Derek detailed, this is some limited water bypass and some work within the pipe, but no substantial earth movement, which is a pretty significant difference from the last one that you've seen.
Yeah, we've had several culverts this year. and-
It's a
and-
popular thing
That's a
with the
popular thing,
intensity
and-
of the water we've
And we
been
don't,
seeing.
we don't have a public hearing each time, I believe.
It's really dependent on the
Yeah,
ones where
right.
there have been pretty substantive work on
Right.
either public or private infrastructure. Public hearings have been called for. On for example, there was a pond that we received last year where there needed to be some work done on the outlet of an existing pond. That one was minimal, and as a result, the commission ruled that it was not likely to cause a significant impact. But there was the private crossing at 424 Wormwood Hill. That required a whole box culvert inset, and so a lot of excavation. That
Right.
one was ruled to be potentially a significant impact. So
Right.
either way, we'll talk about this on the 2nd, and if there's any further questions, then they can be raised there. The Conservation Commission meets on the 20th. I will bring the application to them, see if they have any items of concern. But if we want to notify neighbors and put it out to the public.
We still are going to notify the neighbors even if there is
Yeah,
Okay.
not public hearing. So
right.
that's generally how we've, unless that was changed in the
I
regulations.
thought we changed.
Well,
We'll look at that.
Okay.
We'll figure about that. Don't
Maybe
worry.
not about wetlands, but we are closing the road, so we will be notifying the abutters.
That's fair.
Okay,
So in either scenario.
Regardless, sounds like a good idea to me.
Katie has her hand up.
You just answered my question. My question was, will the road end up being closed? And if it
Okay.
is, yeah, we definitely have to tell the neighbors.
Yeah, we'll tell the neighbors, yeah.
I think either way, if we have a public hearing, it's just a matter of whether or not we legally notice this in the paper and have the public come out and be able to speak to this. If we do get feedback from the public, we can always have a public hearing, but right now, when you receive it, you just need to make that finding either way.
Oh, so we don't need to decide whether we're having a public hearing?
You do.
That's
do.
the action we have to take today.
Yeah.
You,
Okay.
you can change your mind,
Oh,
you can
could change
decide,
their mind.
yeah.
I get it, okay.
It's better not to do that because then it delays the process. So either way.
Not to do what?
Change your
Change
mind
your mind.
later.
Okay, I'm confused.
So, okay. The way that this normally works is you get the application on day one, you
Yeah.
get a preliminary, you decide, does this seem like it might be a significant impact? Yes or no? If you say this doesn't seem reasonably likely, you could act on it at the next meeting. But based on additional information, you could then schedule a public hearing if the application didn't have a lot of information at the start. The whole thing, though, is that will delay the process, and we're trying to be able.
Expeditious.
Okay,
Expeditious,
so
good word.
to speed up the process, we should schedule a public hearing.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you
I
think it's
get-
a public hearing for significant impact or a public hearing for public interest? That changes the ultimate finding you have to make and how level of detail is going to be.
I thought we'd do it just to speed up the process.
Then
I would do
it-
it
for the
for-
process,
I would do it
public
for
interest.
public
That's what I.
Public interest.
All
Got
right.
it. Okay. All right. Does that sound reasonable? Public interest, public hearing at our next meeting.
So in that case, what I would recommend, so those of you who have the motion sheet in front of you, what I'd recommend is you'd want to go to the second motion and then strike and finding that this work is reasonably likely to have a significant impact, and instead put in and in the public interest. And that'll work to get that set up.
Good. Okay. someone
Sarah,
like
will
to-
you make the motion?
Sure.
She's our designated
Be the
speaker.
motion.
John
person.
DeVivo's not here today, so
Do the short ones. Zach, do the long ones.
I'll practice, but I used to be pretty fast.
Of course, he moves to receive the application of the town of Mansfield to repair the culvert at Eagleville Brook located proximate to 11 Hunting Lodge Road and 321 Separatist Roads. And
Separatist Road
Road.
without an S. Yeah.
only one.
And to schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 at 4 South Eagleville Road, Audrey P. Beck Municipal Building, Council Chambers, Mansfield, Connecticut, 06268, and to refer this application to the Conservation Commission for review and comment. This hearing is because this project is in the public interest.
Okay.
Couldn't figure out how to.
Moved by Corsi,
Perfect.
Second by England.
second by Anglin. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously, I believe. Yes, I got Al. Okay. All right, so we will schedule a public hearing
And-
and we will,
Would folks like a field trip to go see the condition of the culvert? I love taking people to
I
culverts.
really like field trips.
Okay. So in that case, quickly figuring out a time, we like to do afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I've often found.
So let's see, I'm pulling up my calendar. We could do Tuesday, the 12th at
12th of August.
12th of August at about 3:30.
Is
Does that work for you, Derek?
That's next Tuesday?
Yes, next Tuesday at
Okay.
3:30?
Yep.
Okay.
3:30. Got it.
And
Okay.
we'll send out an agenda and
Great.
notify you all.
Very good.
Man,
Okay, I believe that's it for inland wetlands.
I do believe so.
All right.
It's 6:22.
6:22. Moving right along. I call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Mansfield, Connecticut, August 4th, 2025 at 6:22. Members present are Ahua, Corsi, Anglin, Al Furtoni, Katie Furtoni, and our newest member, Ken Ron, and Josh Walters, who's seated for absent members. Okay, we have a consent agenda which consists of minutes from the 21st of July.
I did watch the video and I will do the motion.
Okay,
Move to accept the minutes as written.
moved by Corsi,
Second by England.
second by Anglin. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, so we have a tabled application and we need to continue a public hearing, right?
Actually, that is, what I was trying to do is to avoid you having a special meeting on August 11th, just to continue a public hearing. However, the applicant, we're not able to do that because we already did continue the hearing to a time and date certain, and that was August 11th. So unfortunately, you will have to have a very brief special meeting to then continue this public hearing to September 2nd. So please disregard that motion. And due to the inconvenience, it is a hybrid meeting, but you are welcome and probably encouraged to attend remotely because it's going to be really all of 5 minutes. But we will need a
So
quorum
that's
in order
on
to do
August
that.
11th.
That's on August 11th, yep, and
Okay.
we'll be sending out an agenda. They'll be at 5 PM, yep, and literally 5 minutes.
Okay, so
got it.
that's for old business B, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay. And so the only thing we have left is the revised bond agreement. You're the specialist in bonds.
I'm the specialist in bonds. So I just want to introduce who's here tonight in case you have any questions. We have Tim Consolo and Eric Schultz from Landmark, Schulte. We have Laura Odie and Chase Bowell also from Landmark, and we should have Kelly from Bowler. There she is. So if you have any questions about the items that Landmark has requested to be bonded, these are your folks that you can ask. So very briefly, if you've been up to Four Corners lately, you'll see that the standard is very, very nearing its completion. So staff has been on site every morning for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And while they're moving right along, there's a couple things that, while they hope to finish it, and they're trying very hard to finish it, they're being very cautious. So do you want to talk a little bit about the items?
Well, I can talk. Yeah, I mean, I think Julian said, like a lot of these items, we're just being very conservative. I mean, I think the items that were approved on the July 7th meeting, most of those are already done already. So we're just trying to, we know you guys do not have another meeting until September, and we're obviously moving people in the weekend of the 15th. So just want to be ultra conservative to make sure there's nothing non-life safety that would hold that up. So as she stated, you know, we believe most, if not all, these items will be done by the 15th. Just trying to make sure there's nothing that would hold that up. That would be kind of like an auxiliary type of thing. So
This is not unusual that there's a few things left over. They don't seem to be particularly dangerous in any way. A few benches and lights and.
Yeah, so as of today, with regard to the bond that you did in July, the benches have arrived and are being installed. There may be 1 or 2 that are being relocated. The planters are here, and I believe they're installed. The backless gabion wall mounted bench is installed. The synthetic turf has a tiny little piece that needs to go in. The decorative pool fence is done. The landscaping in the pool area is done, and the heaters in the pool area are done. So many of the items from July are completed. So what we're asking is to bond for the outside parking garage overhead door, the 2 monument lights, the 2 monument signs. While they're in and I've inspected them, there are some LED lights that need to be installed. The courtyard fire pit, the replacement of 1 tree behind building 4000. And just late last week, in Tim's heavy rains that he's learned to love in Connecticut, there's going to be a little bit of gutter work that's going to be done. And then there is some work that needs to be done in all of the basins, and I can have Michael sort of elaborate on that.
Right. So the basins, as you know, this project has already had 1 revisit to this commission for stormwater. The stormwater for the site is very complex, features a large amount of detention basins, underground systems, hydrodynamic separators, all of which have come together quite nicely over the course of the 2.5 years that I've been walking this project. There are some lingering maintenance things that could be improved and buttoned up for these basins to make them function a little bit better. Kelly Bonenberger is here from Bowler today. She's been the primary inspector for all sediment and erosion things on site. It's been there weekly. Kelly, do you want to talk about just broadly the kinds of changes that are meant to just kind of finalize some improvements on these basins before they're stamped for done?
Yeah, I would say big picture, some of the updates include, I know we walked through adding some stone to the bottom of some of the above ground basins, just so the bottoms would have something at the bottom of them. We also looked at installing, almost drilling out some more orifices so the basins
Is
would
there some
see
way you can
water.
increase your volume?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you guys hear me better now or no?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry
you
about
could
that.
speak really loudly.
And we were adding stone to some of the above ground basins. We're also adding in some more measures so the basins would dewater, not hold as much water. And then I know too, there were some additional plantings that would be installed behind the rear basin, behind the parking garage, which we were finalizing a plan on, which is super high level.
The parking garage basin has gone through a couple of design iterations over the course of permitting for this project as exact groundwater conditions have been identified. Originally, the basin was supposed to be planted and wet. Then the design moved it to be a sand filter basin, which was not going to have vegetation. It has turned out that it is going to be wet, and there's a whole bunch of plants that have grown up through it. It's functioning like a stormwater wetland. Fortunately, preliminaries, Derek Delay is waiting on some final data to come in from Bowler to validate this, but it appears as if there is sufficient overboard to have all those plantings in there and still hold all of the water that would be needed for stormwater quality on the site. So it's intended that the changes will make this function as a stormwater wetland. We'll just do some additional plantings in there to improve that environmental quality, bring it up to standards for stormwater basin and the manual. And then that will mean that their basin will function quite well without needing to rip out a whole bunch of earthen material.
Michael, what sort of plantings would go into that?
That's probably going to be native wetland plants. So
Okay.
right now, the condition of the basin, there's a large amount of native cattails that have established in the sand and
Right.
silt of that basin, as well as some other floating plants and some algae. I don't know precisely what plantings would be recommended, but the landscape architect will no doubt be involved to make some recommendations on that. The alternative here would be to remove several inches of the top layer of that basin, the entire area of that, take out all the vegetation, and then relay new sediment in order to go back to the original design from the third iteration of the project, which is doable, but if the design is working for stormwater quality as it currently is, it's probably easier to work with what nature has decided will be there. And Derek has noted no issues with that as long as it can meet the stormwater quality manual.
Can we just talk a little bit about the schedule? Because I think it's important. I think the schedules, it works, and it's, they've been very intentional, specifically about the stormwater, but they are requesting that the items to rectify the stormwater basins not be complete, or they have until June 30th of 2026 because of the timing. And Kelly, can you talk about, that is a best practice, those stormwater basins, it's my understanding that Bowler's looked at them, they will be functioning. However, they will be handling the stormwater, they just will have a little bit more water, and then they will function as designed once they're able to do this work. Is that correct, Kelly?
Correct, and they're still functioning as designed.
If you
it's
could
just-
talk.
Hold
really
up your mic again,
really
it works
Sorry.
best.
They're still functioning as designed and generally as they were intended. It's just to help with some of the operation and maintenance and the final overall aesthetic of the site. And like Michael said, the basin behind the parking garage, it wants to be more of a stormwater wetland than what was originally intended. So instead of just fighting how nature kind of wants it to be, adding in these plantings and adding in some of the stone around the site, it will just, it's more for the aesthetic. So they're still kind of functioning how they were intended.
Great, so
So just to add a little bit, so the reason for the June of 2026, the reason we're pushing this off, they're going to have to go in there, they're going to have to bring in machinery to scrape and to do this work. So in order, they're not going to be able to reestablish the site. Like grass is already growing around these basins. So they're not going to be able to reestablish the site until the next growing season. So that's a big part of why we're pushing this off until June so that they can have spring of 2026 to reestablish everything that's going to get ruined, basically.
Yeah, essentially, like we had spoken about, Michael, yourself, me, Bowler, and Derek. The idea, and I think with everybody, kind of agreed, that if this was done, the work was done during the colder months when things were dormant, we weren't going to disturb as much, we weren't going to kill as much, as far as grass and whatnot, and then we could then come into the spring, do that replanting or reseeding and be able to be in the proper grow environment for those items. So that was the idea behind starting late and finishing, in the early spring months. So.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
Zach, you look as if you are pondering.
I'm nearsighted.
Okay, we have a motion.
So I would just ask that whoever reads the motion, read it off the motion sheet. We did try to shorten it up a little bit
Okay.
From the one that was in the memo.
Ken,
Sure.
your first motion.
Move in accordance with Article 12, 190-87C or A, and Article 11, 190-76A, 3, to authorize a zoning enforcement officer to certify certificate of zoning compliance for zoning permit Z-23-0013 relative to a multifamily development located at 1725 Stores Road, known as the Standard at Four Corners, provided the following conditions have been met. 1, revised bond agreement fully executed between the applicant owner, the town of Mansfield, as outlined in the revised bond agreement dated August 4th, 2025. A suitable cash bond is received in accordance with the executed revised bond agreement. 3, all public health and safety components of the project have been satisfactorily completed, including suitable protective barriers for the pool and hot areas. The site has received an approval final inspection from the zoning enforcement officer. All approval criteria for certificates of zoning compliance outlined in Article 12, 198-87C have been met. Upon completion of the outstanding site improvements, a supplemental written certification is required from professional responsible for the plan, stating that these items have been installed in accordance with the approved plan.
Moved by Ron,
Second by England.
second by England. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Good, we're looking forward to seeing that open. So, although this has nothing to do with planning and zoning, can you give us any insight into the CO?
We are rounding the final poll with the building department. I think by Wednesday, we should be pretty much wrapped up with inspections. It's really just coming back and checking a couple of small deficiencies here and there. The town has pretty much been through every nook and cranny. We have our pool state inspection tomorrow. I know the Highlands is coming out to that inspection as well as the code official. So there's going to be a lot of representation there. Anticipating that goes well. Like I said, very minor things. The town, from all aspects, has been a brilliant guide to getting through this process. From the building department and zoning and wetlands and engineering have really been within their purview, very helpful in helping guiding us through this process, and it's been awfully appreciated.
And you're planning on opening the entire project all at once?
I think the plan is to do a stage move-in. I think it's the 15th and the 16th, the two major move-in dates. I know that our operations team has had meetings with with the local police and fire department to walk through that plan. At their, that was last week, I believe. So,
Well, looking forward to seeing it. You're
Looking
going to have some
forward-
kind of
look-
grand opening?
what's that?
You're going to have some kind of grand opening?
I'm gonna probably have a grand leaving at this point. It's been a long 8 months. But no, I think we're gonna be doing something. I'm just not sure exactly what yet.
Okay.
But it'll just be nice to have the kids in. It'll be nice to see kids and their parents. And it's all being worth it
Yeah.
on all of our parts. I mean, this
Yeah.
this project has not just been, landmark, putting a bunch of money and putting some buildings in the ground. This was a few years in the making before, it even got to the point where a shovel got in the ground, and that doesn't happen with all you people.
Right.
So, a lot of recognition needed on all ends for something like this to happen. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just this project was approved in, I think February, Chase probably knows this by heart, was approved in February of 2022. But the application took at least a year before that. So this has been, and then, the site investigation, the things that this commission doesn't see probably happen, well before that. So it actually is a pretty quick project. I think I would say that this is a pretty aggressive timeline, but it's been, probably about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I would say that's probably in the right range. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, thank you again. for
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, guys.
It is looking good. Do we have anything else we need to do tonight? We have short and sweet, and the meeting is ending at 6:42.
Recording stopped.
Efficiency is our middle name.
Sandy said 6:45. I said 7. I always shoot.
Right. We're going to come tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.